There is a moment in life where everything changes, not little by little, all at once, as if one entire version of reality was swapped for another in the blink of an eye. Some people go their entire lives without experiencing this. Others live this over and over again, and build lives that seem impossible. The difference isn't luck or fate. It's something quantum physics discovered decades ago, but almost no one knows how to use: the quantum leap. Here's the truth no one tells you. The life you want already exists, not as a distant future, as a parallel reality accessible now. The prosperous, fulfilled version is already vibrating at a specific frequency, and the quantum leap is the process of tuning into that frequency and bringing that reality into the physical. But there's a problem. Most people want this new reality while still vibrating in the old one. They want different results while maintaining the same identity, and that simply doesn't work. So if at this moment there is a feeling that life should be bigger, more abundant, more meaningful, but you don't know how to get there, that is no coincidence. It's a sign that the system is ready to leap. The question is, how to make this leap without sabotaging yourself? How to maintain the new frequency when everything around you still reflects the old reality? These answers are here, and in the end it will become clear not only what the quantum leap is, but exactly how to apply it so that the transformation is permanent. There's a truth about transformation that few are willing to accept. Most people expect change to arrive as a dramatic, explosive, and easily recognizable event. They wait for that Hollywood moment where everything changes overnight, in an obvious and spectacular way. But the reality of the quantum leap is completely different. The most profound transformations happen first in silence. They occur in invisible layers of existence, reorganizing the energetic structure, even before any changes appear in the physical world. It's as if the butterfly already exists complete inside the cocoon, even though from the outside it still looks like just a motionless chrysalis. Here's what no one tells you. The quantum leap isn't gradual. It's instantaneous. However, preparing for this leap can take time. Think of an Olympic athlete. The jump over the bar lasts only seconds, but years of training, discipline, and meticulous technique adjustments were required to achieve that perfect jump. In quantum manifestation, it works exactly like this. The confusion arises because people confuse preparation with the leap itself. They're adjusting energetically, but because the physical results haven't yet appeared, they believe nothing is happening. That's the trap. The quantum leap is already underway the moment the internal decision is made with complete coherence, and there is something that serves as a compass in this process. Discomfort. Yes, that strange, unsettling feeling that makes you question everything. When someone is about to jump into a new reality, the discomfort intensifies, not because something is wrong, but because the old version is being dismantled to make room for the new one. Imagine someone who has lived their entire life in a small apartment and suddenly moves to a mansion. In the first few days, there's a strange feeling, almost of not belonging. The space is bigger, the possibilities are different, everything seems unfamiliar. This discomfort doesn't mean the change was wrong. It just means the system is recalibrating to a new frequency. The problem is that many people, when they feel this discomfort, interpret it as a sign that they're on the wrong path. So they rush back to their comfort zone, to their old reality, and then the quantum leap is aborted before it is even completed. The inner peace we so desperately seek doesn't come from the absence of discomfort. It comes from the certainty that discomfort is temporary and necessary. It's the price of expansion. Those who understand this stop running from discomfort and begin to recognize it as the harbinger of transformation. There is a huge difference between someone who is just dreaming of a different life and someone who is genuinely in the process of making a quantum leap. The person who dreams wants results without internal transformation. The one who is jumping understands that she needs to become someone completely Different first, it's not about adding new things to the old life. It's about dissolving the old life and being reborn into a whole new frequency. Think of boiling water. It can be 99 degrees and still be liquid water. But just 1 degree more is enough for the transformation to happen instantly. It becomes vapor. This is the quantum leap. All the accumulated energy, all the gradual heating culminates in an instantaneous and irreversible change of state. Many people give up when they're at 99 degrees. They think nothing's working because they haven't seen the physical transformation yet, but they're only 1 degree away from the leap. The question isn't whether the leap will happen. The question is, who's willing to keep the temperature at the boiling point? And here comes the part few realize: the quantum leap requires a death. Not physical, obviously, but energetic. The old identity must die for the new to be born. There is no quantum leap without something being left behind. Relationships that no longer resonate. Beliefs that limit you. Habits that keep you in the old frequency. All of these need to be released. This release isn't painful by chance. It hurts because attachment exists. Even when something no longer serves, the mind insists on clinging to the familiar. It's like trying to fly while carrying heavy stones. Impossible. The leap only happens when there is lightness, when the weight of the past is finally released. If at this moment there is a feeling of unease, that something big is about to happen but hasn't arrived yet, that is not meaningless anxiety. It's the energy system getting ready to jump. It's the frequency being adjusted. It's the new reality beginning to form in the invisible layers before materializing in the physical world. But for this leap to be complete, it's necessary to understand exactly what quantum jumping is and how it works in practice. Because without this understanding, it's easy to sabotage the process without even realizing it. Quantum jumping isn't a metaphor. It's not just a motivational concept dressed up with scientific terms. It is a real, measurable phenomenon that occurs at the subatomic level of reality and applies directly to personal transformation. In quantum physics, electrons do not move gradually from one energy level to another. They simply disappear from one orbit and instantly reappear in another, without traveling the space between them. This is the original quantum leap. There is no middle ground. Either the electron is in orbit A, or it is in orbit B, never in the middle of the road. This principle, when applied to human life, reveals something extraordinary. Genuine transformation does not have to be gradual. Someone can be living in a reality of scarcity and, in a single moment of total alignment, leap into a reality of abundance, not through a slow and progressive process, but through an instantaneous frequency shift. The difference between traditional manifestation and quantum leap is crucial. Traditional protest works like building a staircase, rung by rung, brick by brick, step by step. It's a linear, predictable process that follows a logical sequence of cause and effect. Set a goal, make a plan, take action, expect results. Quantum leap, on the other hand, is like teleportation. A person doesn't have to go all the way. They simply shift their frequency, and the surrounding reality rearranges itself to match this new vibration. It seems like magic, but it's pure physics. Here's the secret that changes everything. The universe isn't a solid, fixed structure. It's a field of infinite possibilities vibrating at different frequencies. Each frequency corresponds to a different reality. The financial reality of someone who lives in the frequency of scarcity is completely different from the reality of someone who vibrates in abundance, even if they are both on the same planet in the same city with the same opportunities available. A quantum leap occurs when there is such a complete shift in identity that one's personal frequency instantly changes. And when the frequency shifts, external reality inevitably adjusts. Not because the universe is granting a wish, but because the person now resonates with a different timeline. Think of a radio. There are hundreds of stations broadcasting simultaneously. Every song, every show, every frequency is available on the air at this very moment. but the radio only picks up the station it's tuned to. Changing stations doesn't create a new broadcast. It simply tunes the device to something that was already there, waiting to be accessed. Different versions of life already exist in potential. The most successful, most prosperous, most fulfilled version is already broadcasting on a specific frequency. The quantum leap is simply turning the internal dial and tuning into that frequency. But here's the trick. You can't tune into a new station while your mind, emotions, and actions remain fixed on the old frequency. Many try to force different results while maintaining the same identity. They want money while thinking like someone poor. They want healthy relationships while carrying unhealed wounds. They want success while acting out of fear of failure. This doesn't work. Not because the universe is denying anything, but because there's a frequency mismatch. Imagine someone trying to watch a high-definition HD channel on an old tube TV. There is simply no compatibility. The transmission exists. It's available, but the device isn't capable of tuning into it. The quantum leap requires a complete update of the internal operating system. And this update doesn't happen through effort. It happens through alignment. It's not about working harder, doing more things, or adding more techniques. It's about becoming energetically compatible with the desired reality. It's about dissolving the resistances that keep the frequency stuck in the same place. Here's something fascinating. In quantum physics, the observer affects the observed at experiments show that particles behave differently simply because they are being observed. Human consciousness literally influences reality at the quantum level. This means that the way someone observes themselves, how they define themselves, how they perceive themselves is constantly collapsing waves of possibilities into specific realities. When someone sees themselves as a victim of circumstances, this observation collapses reality into experiences that confirm victimhood. When one sees oneself as a conscious creator of one's experience, this observation collapses reality into situations that confirm personal power. It is not empty positive belief. It's applied quantum physics. The quantum leap, therefore, begins with a radical change in self-observation. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about recognizing that the current version is just one of infinite possibilities, collapsed by repeated observation, and that by changing the observation, a completely different version can be collapsed into physical existence. But be careful. The universe isn't fooled by performance. There's no point in saying I'm rich while every cell in your body vibrates with financial panic. It's no use saying I'm confident while your nervous system is constantly in threat mode. The quantum leap requires total coherence between what you think, what you feel, and how you act. This coherence is the fuel for the leap. Without it, the person becomes stuck in a pattern of desiring one reality but living in another. They remain in a state of energetic limbo, never fully in the old reality, never fully in the new, and this limbo is exhausting. The good news: once coherence is achieved, the leap is inevitable. It's not a question of if it will happen, but when. And the when is usually much faster than the logical mind can comprehend. Because in the quantum field, everything already exists simultaneously. There's no need to create anything new, just access what's already available. However, for this access to happen sustainably, and not just as a temporary glimpse, three fundamental pillars need to be aligned. The first pillar is the hardest to accept: identity reassignment. It's not about improving who you are, it's about completely abandoning who you were. And this is frightening because the human mind has a deep attachment to the continuity of the self. From childhood, a narrative is constructed about oneself. I'm like this. I've always been this way. Everyone in my family is like this. These stories solidify into a fixed, rigid identity that becomes an invisible prison. The person looks to the past and uses each experience as evidence of who they are. But here's the twist. The past only has power over the future if it is carried as an identity in the present. Identity reallocation means cutting the umbilical cord with the old version. It means stopping presenting yourself to the universe as the one who always struggled with money, and starting to present yourself as the one who naturally flows in abundance. Not because you're faking it, but because you've decided to collapse a different version of yourself into existence. Here's the ultimate test. If, when talking about yourself, your sentences begin with "I've always been," "I can never," or "I'm not the type to," your identity is still anchored in the past. And as long as it's anchored in the past, a quantum leap is impossible. Because you can't jump into a new reality carrying the energetic baggage of the old one. The second pillar is where most people fail without even realizing it. Emotional coherence. This isn't about superficial positive thinking. It's about a deep alignment between what you think, what you feel, and how you act. When these three elements vibrate at the same frequency, the quantum field responds instantly. Think of an orchestra. If each musician plays a different tune, the result is chaotic noise. But when everyone plays the same score at the same rhythm, a symphony emerges. Emotional coherence is this internal symphony. It's when the conscious mind says, "I am prosperous." The body feels the real sensation of prosperity, and daily actions reflect someone who already lives in this reality. The problem is that most operate in constant dissonance. They claim prosperity in the morning, but spend the day compulsively checking their bank account in fear. They express confidence, but avoid opportunities out of insecurity. They envision success, but act like someone expecting failure. This dissonance negates any attempt at a quantum leap. Consistency isn't about suppressing negative emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing when there's misalignment and making conscious corrections. It's about asking, right now, are my thoughts, emotions, and actions tuned to the same station? Or are they each on a different frequency? There is a powerful exercise to build this coherence. When you wake up, before letting your mind sink into the worries of the day, take 5 minutes to feel the future version already realized. Do not view as distant film. Feel in the body. How does this version breathe? How does she move? How does it feel in your chest, shoulders, posture? Embody this energy before you even get out of bed. When this becomes a daily practice, something extraordinary happens. The body begins to memorize this frequency, and the more the body memorizes it, the easier it is to access it throughout the day, especially during challenging times. But be careful. Consistency isn't rigidity. It's not about controlling every thought or emotion 24/7. That's guaranteed exhaustion. It's about having an internal reference point and consciously returning to it whenever there's a deviation. It's like a pendulum that can oscillate but always returns to center. And that brings us to the third pillar, the one that separates beginners from masters, detachment from form. This is the most counterintuitive of all. The human mind loves to control. It loves to plan every detail of how things should happen. It wants to know every step of the way, the exact schedule, the complete route to the destination. But quantum leaps don't work that way. They happen through unexpected paths, seemingly impossible synchronicities, opportunities that arise from unlikely places. And if there's a rigid attachment to how things should manifest, these alternative doors are completely ignored. Imagine someone who wants a romantic relationship, but has a detailed list of what that person should look like. A specific height, a precise profession, even their zodiac sign. This rigidity closes the door to genuine connections that could arise in unexpected ways. The universe may be trying to deliver something even better, but the person is so fixated on the form that they fail to recognize it. Detachment from form doesn't mean giving up desire. It means releasing obsessive control over the how. It's saying to the quantum field, I know what I want to experience: abundance, love, fulfillment. But I'm open to forms my limited mind hasn't yet imagined. This openness creates a space for universal intelligence to work. And there's something more subtle about this. Attachment to form often stems from fear. Fear that if you don't control every detail, things won't happen. This fear in itself is a frequency of scarcity, and scarcity attracts more scarcity. So the very act of trying to control excessively sabotages manifestation. True detachment comes from the deep trust that aligned frequency inevitably attracts corresponding experiences. It's like planting a seed. You don't need to keep digging it up to see if it's growing. You trust the natural process. The seed knows how to grow into a tree. The quantum field knows how to materialize the frequency being emitted. When these three pillars are aligned, new identity, emotional coherence, and detachment from form, the quantum leap ceases to be theory and becomes a lived experience. But even with all this in practice, there is a silent enemy that can abort the process just as it's about to be completed. There is a crucial moment in every quantum leap process, a moment when everything seems aligned, the frequency is high, identity has been relocated, and then an invisible force emerges, trying to pull us back to the old reality. This force has a name: resistance to the unknown. The fear of the unknown is ancestral. It's programmed into the human nervous system as a survival mechanism. For millions of years, the unknown represented real danger, hidden predators, hostile territories, fatal threats. The brain learned to treat the unknown as a threat and the known as safety, even when the known is miserable. Here's the paradox. Someone can be living in scarcity, struggling, suffering, yet that reality is still familiar. The nervous system recognizes it, and there's a strange comfort in that familiarity. One already knows how to deal with that pain. There are already tested survival strategies. The familiar, even though painful, seems manageable. But abundance, success, fulfillment, this is uncharted territory. There are no mental maps to navigate this new reality, and the brain, in its attempt to protect itself, sets off alarms. What if I can't sustain this? What if it's just temporary luck? What if they find out I don't deserve it? These voices aren't conscious sabotage. They're the nervous system trying to keep you in your known comfort zone. Neville Goddard used to say that feeling is the key, but there's something deeper to this. Feeling needs to be sustained even and especially when the discomfort of change arises. Because discomfort is precisely the sign that something is transforming. It's the friction between the old identity dying and the new one being born. The internal war intensifies precisely when the leap is closest. It's as if the mind makes a last desperate effort to abort the mission and return to the safe haven of the past. Thoughts of doubt arise with renewed force. Situations that seem to confirm the old reality appear as proof that nothing has changed. The body may even manifest physical symptoms: anxiety, insomnia, restlessness. Here's the part that separates those who leap from those who give up. Recognizing this resistance for what it truly is. It's not a sign of failure. It's the last gasp of the old frequency before it's completely dissolved. It's like the darkest dawn just before sunrise. The more intense the resistance, the closer the leap. But there's a second layer of this resistance that's even more subtle: the search for external validation. The conditioned mind has been trained to constantly look for external signs that it's on the right path. Checking the bank account, hoping to see changes. Observing other people's behavior for confirmation. Seeking signs from the universe that prove the manifestation is working. This obsessive search for external proof is a lethal trap, because it starts from a premise of doubt. Only those who are uncertain seek confirmation. And the lack of certainty is, in itself, a frequency that cancels the quantum leap. It's like planting a seed today and digging it up tomorrow to see if it's growing. Verification itself kills the process. External validation also creates dependency. The person begins to need constant confirmation to maintain faith. And when this confirmation doesn't appear immediately, because the physical world operates on a different time frame than the quantum field, doubt sets in. And with doubt, frequency plummets. See how this works in practice. Someone decides to make the quantum leap to financial abundance. They spend days in perfect emotional coherence, feeling prosperous, acting from their new identity. But then they look at their bank account and the numbers haven't changed. At that moment, there is a choice: to continue in the frequency of abundance regardless of what the physical eyes see, or to let the current reality pull you back into the frequency of scarcity. Most people choose the second option without even realizing it. They think, well, I tried, but it's not working. And with that thought, they abort the leap. They don't understand that the physical world is always the last to change. First, the internal frequency changes, then circumstances rearrange, and only then does physical reality manifest. Giving up because physical reality hasn't changed is like giving up on cooking, because the cake isn't ready right after you put it in the oven. There's something else that fuels this resistance: the fear of losing what we already have. However limited our current reality may be, it's familiar. And there's an irrational fear that by trying to leap to something bigger, everything will be lost. What if I change and lose the people I love? What if I grow financially and lose my humility? What if I become this new version and no one recognizes me anymore? These fears are based on a fundamental belief that growth means loss. But the truth is exactly the opposite. What is truly aligned remains. What is not aligned dissolves to make room for what resonates with the new frequency. And that's not a loss, it's an upgrade. Relationships that require someone to remain small to function are not healthy relationships. They are chains. Situations that require a low vibration to be maintained are not achievements. They are prisons. The quantum leap doesn't take away anything genuinely beneficial. It simply removes whatever was hindering expansion. Resistance also manifests itself through the search for approval from others. How many people don't take the leap because they fear what others will think? They worry about judgment, criticism, and envy, and so they remain small so as not to bother anyone. They sacrifice their own potential to fit into other people's expectations. But here's something that needs to be understood with absolute clarity. The opinion of those still living in the old frequency about the quantum leap is completely irrelevant. Those who haven't made the leap cannot validate those who are. Seeking approval from people vibrating in the old reality is a guarantee that you will never leave it. The quantum leap is, ultimately, an act of radical courage. The courage to embrace the unknown. The courage to sustain the new frequency even when no external evidence yet confirms it. The courage to be misunderstood by those who have not yet awakened to their own potential. And the courage to let die everything that needs to die so that the new can be born. When this courage solidifies, when resistance is acknowledged but not obeyed, the leap enters its critical phase. But there is still one final test, one final frontier that must be crossed. The time has come to translate theory into action. A quantum leap doesn't happen with intellectual knowledge alone. It requires a specific sequential process that, when followed precisely, makes transformation inevitable. First step: recognize the signs that the leap is near. Before any quantum leap, the energy system begins to emit signals. These aren't mystical or supernatural signs. They're concrete physical and emotional manifestations. Deep restlessness, a feeling that one's current life no longer fits. Growing dissatisfaction with old patterns, intense or disturbing dreams, sudden changes in appetite or sleep patterns. These signs aren't problems to be solved. They're indicators that your internal frequency is preparing to shift. The common mistake is to try to suppress these signals, return to normal, stabilize things. But this aborts the leap. The correct approach is to acknowledge, my system is recalibrating. Something big is shifting. Another crucial sign: old life situations begin to crumble, relationships fall apart, jobs end, routines stop working. This isn't bad luck. It's the universe creating space for the new. Resisting this dismantling is like trying to hold water in your hands. Accepting that the old needs to dissolve is wisdom. Second step: interrupt negative emotional patterns. This is where discipline comes in. Negative emotional patterns are automatic loops that keep the frequency stuck. Obsessive worry, chronic victimization, constant complaining, comparing yourself to others. ruminating about the past. Each time these patterns are activated, they reinforce the old reality. Interruption doesn't happen by fighting patterns. It happens through conscious awareness. The moment the mind starts spinning the loop, why does this always happen to me? There's a window of a few seconds where it's possible to intervene, pause, breathe, and consciously choose not to get on that train of thought. Joe Dispenza teaches that the mind loves to repeat the same neural circuits because it's energy efficient. Creating new circuits requires effort, but it's precisely this effort that rewires the brain for a new reality. Each time a negative pattern is consciously interrupted, new synapses begin to form. With repetition, these new synapses strengthen until they become the new automatic pattern. A straightforward technique. When you catch a negative thought in action, immediately replace it with an affirmation of identity. Not an affirmation of desire, but of identity. Not I want to be prosperous, but I am prosperous. That's my nature. Not I hope to find love, but I am love. I naturally attract what resonates with me. Third step. Incorporate the new frequency into the body. The body is not just a vehicle. It is the instrument of attunement. As long as the new frequency remains only in the mind, it is unstable, fluctuating, and easily lost. When it descends into the body, into the cells, into the nervous system, it becomes anchored. To embody means to physically feel, not to imagine what it would be like. To feel as if it already is. How does the body of someone prosperous sit? With relaxed shoulders, an erect spine, and deep, calm breathing. How does the body of someone confident walk? With firm steps, a direct gaze, and a solid presence. How does the body of someone at peace vibrate? With relaxed muscles, a loose jaw, and a steady heartbeat. Dedicate at least 10 minutes a day to literally inhabiting this future body. Not as a mental exercise, but as a physical practice. Adjust your posture. Change the way you breathe. Change the rhythm of the movements. Do this until your body memorizes the sensation. Because when the body memorizes, the frequency stabilizes. Something powerful happens when the body incorporates the new frequency. Actions change automatically. There's no longer any need to force behaviors. They flow naturally from the new body vibration. Someone who has embodied prosperity doesn't need to remind themselves to act prosperous. The body simply does. Fourth step. Act from the new identity. Action without alignment is empty effort. But action aligned with the new frequency is pure magnetism. At this stage, every decision, every choice, every movement must stem from the question, how would the version of me that already lives this reality act in this situation? It's not about grand dramatic gestures. It's about daily micro-decisions. How would this version of you treat your body? Probably with more care, adequate nutrition, and proper rest. How would this version manage your money? Probably with more awareness, less impulsiveness, and strategic decision-making. How would this version handle conflict? Probably with more maturity, less reactivity, and clear communication. Each aligned micro-decision is a vote of confidence in the quantum leap. It's an energetic declaration. I am already this person. And the quantum field responds to consistent declarations. One aligned action may not visibly change anything, but 1,000 aligned actions create a critical mass that collapses the new reality into physical manifestation. Be careful not to fall into the trap of forced action. It's not about doing more, working harder, or pushing harder. It's about acting differently. Quality over quantity. 100 misaligned actions are not worth a single action that perfectly resonates with the new frequency. Fifth step. Trust in the right time without looking for proof. This is the most challenging stage. The quantum leap has already occurred at the moment of coherent decision. But physical materialization operates at a different speed, and in this interval between the energetic leap and physical manifestation, doubt tries to creep in. True trust isn't based on evidence. Evidence is a consequence, not a cause. Trust is maintaining the same frequency, even when physical reality still reflects the old. It's looking at an empty bank account and feeling abundance. It's being alone and vibrating with love. It's facing challenges and remaining certain of success. When the frequency is maintained consistently, the universal substance has no choice but to mold it into physical form. But if the frequency constantly oscillates between new and old, the substance cannot solidify into any specific shape. Stopping looking for proof is a radical act of faith. It means understanding that the absence of immediate evidence is not evidence of absence. It means continuing to embody, feel, and act from the new reality, even when our physical eyes still see the old one. It means knowing at the deepest level that the leap is irreversible once it has been genuinely made. When these 5 steps are followed not as a to-do list, but as a living organic process, the quantum leap ceases to be a possibility and becomes an inevitability. But there is still a fundamental distinction that needs to be understood. A distinction between 2 types of people seeking manifestation. There are 2 very distinct categories of people involved in protesting. From the outside, they may seem similar. They both visualize, repeat affirmations, and study the same concepts. But the results are radically different. One lives in constant transformation. The other remains eternally waiting. The quantum wisher is the one who wishes. You desire intensely, passionately. You may even feel strong emotions when visualizing. You may cry with emotion imagining your dream life. But the moment you open your eyes and return to physical reality, you automatically return to the old frequency. It's as if the visualization were a movie you watched, not an embodied reality. This type of person operates in predictable cycles. In the morning, she vibrates high, full of faith, feeling that anything is possible. She practices, feels abundance, and embodies prosperity. But midday, when an unexpected bill arrives, a problem arises at work, or someone makes a negative comment, all that energy instantly crumbles. And then you spend the entire afternoon in the victim mode, complaining, worrying, doubting. At night you feel guilty about having lost your frequency, trying to regain it by doing more visualizations, more affirmations. And the next day the cycle begins again. This pattern can last for years, decades even. The quantum wisher constantly seeks proof. They check their bank account multiple times a day, hoping for miraculous changes. They analyze every small event, looking for signs that it's working. And when the signs don't appear quickly enough, doubt sets in. Does this really work? Maybe I can't do it. Maybe it's not for me. This person also has a striking characteristic: emotional inconsistency. One day they're absolutely certain they'll manifest. The next, they're convinced nothing will change. Their frequency fluctuates wildly depending on external circumstances. And because the frequency fluctuates, the manifestation never solidifies. The quantum jumper is fundamentally different, not because he's smarter, more spiritual, or more privileged, but because he made an irreversible decision, decided to be, not just wish. And this decision was not made with words or thoughts. It was made with the totality of the being. For the quantum jumper, the new reality is not a future goal. It is the present identity. They are not trying to become prosperous. They already are, and are simply waiting for physical reality to update itself to reflect this inner truth. They are not waiting to find love. They already are love, and they naturally attract experiences that match this frequency. The crucial difference lies in emotional stability. The quantum jumper can face challenges, problems, and difficult situations and still maintain the frequency of the new reality, not because they deny the problems or pretend they don't exist, but because they understand that problems are part of the temporary physical world, while the internal frequency is the only permanent reality. Imagine 2 people facing the same financial crisis. The quantum wisher panics, feels like everything is falling apart, and completely loses the frequency of abundance. They spend days or weeks vibrating with scarcity, fear, and despair. The crisis drags on, worsens, and attracts more negative situations. The quantum jumper, faced with the same crisis, recognizes, this is a reflection of the old frequency still dissolving. It doesn't change who I am. I am abundance. They deal with the situation practically, taking the necessary actions, but don't allow external circumstances to dictate their internal frequency. And often, unexpected solutions appear quickly, not by magic, but because a steady frequency attracts opportunities that panic would block. Another fundamental difference: the quantum wisher needs constant external motivation. They need to watch inspiring videos every day, read new books, take courses, and listen to motivational audio. Not because they're learning, but because they're desperately trying to maintain a frequency that hasn't stabilized internally. The quantum jumper can also consume this content, but not out of dependence. It's through expansion. The frequency is already stable, anchored in the body, integrated into the identity. External content serves to refine, deepen, and expand, never to maintain the frequency in place. And there is something else that radically separates these two types: their relationship with time. The quantum wisher is in a desperate hurry. He wants everything to happen now, immediately, yesterday if possible. This urgency stems from the fear that it might never happen, and this fear ironically delays the entire process. The quantum jumper understands time quantumly. They know that in the energetic field, manifestation has already happened. The realized version already exists. It's simply a matter of allowing physical reality to update itself to reflect this. And this update happens at the right time, not necessarily at the desired time. There is patience without resignation. There is certainty without anxiety. Here's the ultimate test to see which one is operating right now. When something goes wrong, what is the automatic reaction? If it's despair, doubt, a feeling that everything has fallen apart, you're operating as a wisher. If it's interesting, what is this situation showing me? How can I deal with this while maintaining my frequency? Is operating as a jumper. The transition from wisher to jumper doesn't happen through more techniques or more knowledge. It happens through a visceral, deep, irrevocable decision to simply be the new version now, not eventually, and to sustain that decision regardless of what the physical eyes show. This decision, when made with full commitment, creates an energetic stability that cannot be shaken by temporary circumstances. And it is this stability that ultimately allows the quantum leap to be fully completed. But for this stability to become permanent, there is still one final layer of inner work that needs to be done. The quantum leap can happen in an instant, but anchoring this new reality, making it permanent, requires something deeper, a daily ritual of reconnection. Not a ritual in the religious or mystical sense. Ritual in the sense of consistent practice that programs the nervous system for the new frequency. Most people wake up and immediately give their minds over to chaos. They grab their cell phones, immerse themselves in news, messages, and other people's problems. Within 15 minutes, they've absorbed an absurd amount of external frequencies, and then they spend the rest of the day trying to recover from this energetic invasion. It's impossible to maintain the quantum leap like this. The morning is sacred, not because there's anything magical about it, but because it's the time when the mind is most malleable, most receptive, and least contaminated by the frequencies of the physical world. The first 30 minutes after waking determine the frequency of the entire day, and the day's frequency determines the type of experiences attracted. Here's a non-negotiable practice for anyone who truly wants to anchor the quantum leap. Before any contact with the outside world, connect with the future version. Not as a distant imagination, as a present reality. Sit down, close your eyes, and literally feel in your body what it's like to be that version. How does this version breathe? Probably deeper, more relaxed. Breathe like this. How does this version feel about their body? Probably with more gratitude, more care. Feel like this. What does this version feel like in your chest? Probably expansion, lightness, peace. Cultivate this feeling until it becomes more real than any external circumstance. Do this for at least 20 minutes. It's not passive meditation. It's active embodiment. You're literally training your nervous system to recognize this frequency as your default. And the more your nervous system recognizes it, the more easily you can return to it throughout the day when challenges arise. After this morning practice, there's something crucial. Act immediately from this frequency. Don't wait to see if it works. Act as if it already works. The first decision of the day, no matter how small, needs to come from this new identity. It can be something simple. Choosing a nutritious breakfast instead of skipping it. Making the bed with presence instead of haste. Looking in the mirror and recognizing the evolved version staring back. These morning micro-actions are crucial because they build momentum. One aligned action facilitates the next, and the next facilitates the next, until acting from the new frequency becomes automatic, not forced. Throughout the day, situations will inevitably arise that try to pull you back to your old frequency. Someone will say something negative. An unexpected problem will arise. A doubt will try to creep in. In these moments, there's a powerful anchor. Conscious breathing. When you notice your frequency dropping, stop everything. Literally stop for 30 seconds. Take 3 deep breaths, focusing your full attention on your breathing, and mentally repeat, I choose my frequency. Circumstances do not control me. This interrupts the reactive pattern and gives you the space to consciously choose to return to the higher frequency. Another essential practice for anchoring, gratitude for the future version of yourself as if you were already here. Not gratitude for what you have, but for what you already are in the quantum frequency. Be grateful for the abundance that already vibrates internally, even if the bank account does not yet reflect it. Be grateful for the love you already have, even if your ideal partner hasn't physically appeared yet. Give thanks for the vibrant health that already exists energetically, even if the body is still in the process of updating. This anticipated gratitude is not self-deception. It's a recognition that in the quantum field, everything already exists simultaneously. And the act of giving thanks collapses that specific possibility into a higher probability of physical manifestation. Gratitude is pure quantum magnetism. At night, before sleep, there is another crucial moment. The brain enters theta waves, a highly suggestible state. Everything thought and felt in these last minutes before sleep is deeply absorbed by the subconscious. If the last thing you do is review problems, worries and frustrations, your subconscious spends 8 hours processing them, and in the morning, it vibrates at the same low frequency. But if the last minutes before sleep are dedicated to feeling the fulfillment of the new identity, the subconscious processes it all night, and in the morning it's more aligned, more receptive, and more stable in the new frequency. It's inner work happening on autopilot. A powerful technique for this moment. Review the day not as it was, but as it should have been if it had been fully aligned. That impulsive reaction you had, reimagine it by responding with maturity. That moment of doubt, reimagine it by maintaining unshakable certainty. That opportunity you missed out of fear, reimagine it by seizing it with courage. The brain doesn't distinguish between real experience and vividly imagined experience. It creates the same neural connections. So by reimagining the day in an aligned way, you're literally reprogramming the brain to respond differently tomorrow. It's mental rehearsal for quantum performance. Deepak Chopra says that between stimulus and response there is a space, and in this space lies the power to choose. The anchoring of the quantum leap occurs when this space is consciously expanded, when there is no longer an automatic reaction and a conscious response becomes present. All this daily work, morning practice, aligned actions, breathing anchors, anticipatory gratitude, nightly review may seem like a lot. But in reality, it's only 30 minutes in the morning and 15 at night. 45 minutes a day to completely reprogram reality. Compared to the hours spent on social media, worrying and complaining, it's a minimal investment for maximum results. And here's the final secret. Consistency beats intensity. It's better to practice moderately every day than intensely once a week. The brain and nervous system learn through repetition. Each day of practice is an additional layer of programming. Over time, these layers build until the new frequency becomes the automatic default, not a conscious effort. When this happens, The quantum leap is complete. The person is no longer trying to manifest. They simply live in the frequency of their desired reality. And from this stable frequency, life naturally reorganizes itself. Opportunities arise. The right people appear. Resources materialize. Not through struggle or effort, but through pure magnetic alignment. At this point, transformation ceases to be a project and becomes identity. It ceases to be something you do and becomes who you are. And when you are, instead of just doing something, the full force of the quantum field works in your favor, because there is finally perfect resonance between your inner frequency and the infinite possibilities of the universe waiting to manifest. The quantum leap isn't theory. It's a process. And now it's clear. A new identity, total coherence, letting go of control, daily practice. These are the pillars. Apply this, and transformation ceases to be a hope and becomes an experience. Now write in the comments what you want to manifest at this moment. This phrase carries the frequency of someone who has already decided. Like and subscribe to the channel so this content reaches more people who also want to change their lives. If the quantum leap still seems complex, there's an even more direct way to access manifestation, a path that makes everything simpler, more natural, faster. That's exactly what's in the next video I've left on the screen. There, manifestation is straightforward without mystery. It's worth watching. I'll meet you there.